Hey everyone, this is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with another Game of Thrones video. In this video, I'm breaking down the brand new trailer that we got, and it was such a good trailer. But before I get into it, I just want to issue a huge spoiler warning. I do know some things that will happen, and I will be referencing some information that I got in the past regarding set leaks and plot leaks. But now let's move on to the trailer, and what's so great about this trailer is that it focuses in on the three main leaders, and that is Jon, Daenerys, and Cersei, and it focuses in on their motives. Jon wants to prepare for the Great War, Cersei is preparing to defend her throne, and Dany is stuck between conquering the throne and defeating the White Walkers.
I was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms. And I will.
We see Daenerys arriving in Dragonstone, and this is the first time we've seen Dragonstone from that angle. And that's what Dan and Dave like to do. They like to show different angles from the castles that we already know. In Season 2, we only saw the beach side. Whereas in this season, we get to see the south side, which is the stairs that go up to Dragonstone. And when she arrives, most likely in Episode 1, her dragons will be able to thrive. We see Rhaegal and Viserion flying through the landscape, and they'll finally be free, and they'll be able to grow in the mountainous landscape. And what's so great about Dragonstone is that it has been built pretty much for raising dragons. There's underground catacombs, and the landscape is an excellent place for them to fly around and thrive. And in this scene, we see Tyrion watching them, and I can't help but think back to Season 6 when he had a bonding moment setting them free in the tomb. And it makes me feel like we're gonna get a scene like that again, where Tyrion is gonna be building his relationship with these dragons. Whether he is just watching them like he is now or feeding them, I think that relationship will continue to grow. But then she will claim her seat at Dragonstone, which is this amazing looking throne. And I think this is the place where she's going to have some meetings with the higher lords of Westeros, because she's going to want them on her side when she's facing against Queen Cersei. And I believe this specific scene is when Jon and Davos arrive in Dragonstone. And what they're going to try and do is to talk to Daenerys and persuade her to help them fight the White Walkers, because the Great War is coming. And Jon is going to want some dragon glass and possibly her dragons to help defeat them.
If we don't put aside our enmities and band together, we will die. And then it doesn't matter whose skeleton sits on the Iron Throne.
And I feel like we're going to be welcomed to a big scene in Episode 2 where we're going to have Jon and Davos discuss with Daenerys the seriousness of the White Walker threat. And there is somebody there who can vouch for Jon and Davos, and she left Winterfell not too far before Jon and Davos, and that's Melisandre. We see her standing at the top of Dragonstone, looking down as Jon and Davos are climbing the steps up to see Daenerys. So it will be interesting to see what happens between Melisandre, Davos, and Jon, since Jon exiled her and swore he would kill her if she came back to the north, and Davos is absolutely furious with her. But one thing is that she is secure under Daenerys. But that raises another question on who is Melisandre going to support. She believes that there is this prophesied savior, and she did believe that it was Jon Snow. But there are also many Red Witches in Essos that preach that Daenerys is Azor Ahai, the prophesied savior. So it'll be interesting to see who Melisandre sides with. Does she think that Jon is the savior to defeat the Night King, or Daenerys? Or does she think that it is a crucial combination of both? While Daenerys is seeking counsel on defeating the White Walkers by Jon, Cersei is consumed by protecting her throne from Daenerys. We see Cersei starting to get really comfortable on the Iron Throne as she's trying to defend it from Daenerys. We see Cersei and Jaime really plotting to hold their power, especially in the Red Keep, where they designed a new map to plan their war strategy. And I think this really proves Cersei's isolation. She really does have enemies north, south, east, and west, and even on the streets of King's Landing. So in order to stay safe, she must stay isolated. That's why she's building this huge map at the Red Keep. And a huge change for this season is that Jaime is no longer a Kingsguard, and he's going to be taking his place as Lord of Casterly Rock and the Westerlands. I'm really excited to see Jaime in this new leadership position, and I believe as Cersei stays at King's Landing, Jaime is going to be going out of his way to fight off Daenerys. He's going to lead the Lannister armies to try and push back the Unsullied, Dothraki, and the dragons. And there are many things that he could be doing. One thing that's confirmed is that he's going to Highgarden. He's going to Highgarden to get resources that he's going to be shipping back to King's Landing. He could also simply be going to Casterly Rock to defend it. But there is a significant fight that takes place in the fields. And this is going to take place around Episode 4, and it's going to be just like the Battle of the Bastards. But the key difference in this fight is that we actually have characters on both sides that we love. It's not Ramsay versus Jon Snow. Instead, it's going to be Bronn and Jaime versus Daenerys and Grey Worm, and Tyrion is going to be standing off on the sidelines. It's going to be brother against brother and friend against friend. And because of this high tension, I believe in this episode, it's going to run very similar to Battle of the Bastards. We're going to be getting big character building scenes before the battle takes place. Just like I believe this Grey Worm and Melisandre romantic scene will also take place before the fight begins. But in this fight, we're going to be seeing Daenerys burning all of their cargo, while Jaime and Bronn are going to be fighting on the ground. But then we see the Unsullied fighting in Casterly Rock, and that could either be tethered to the fight in the fields, or it could be a whole separate fight, where Daenerys defends Highgarden for Lady Olenna, as well as attacking Casterly Rock. But that's how I believe this whole story will go. Daenerys will keep conquering and keep defeating her enemies until she'll have to stop. And the one thing that is going to stop her is the White Walker threat. And that's where Jon comes in. In the north, we see a gathering between the Wildlings and the Starks. We also see Brienne in this meeting, and I believe she's going to be there in episode 1 of season 7. We also see Tormund and Littlefinger standing off to the side. And I think it's great that Davos is actually sitting next to Jon, because he's really become Jon's right-hand man. And I believe it is this scene where Jon tells everyone that he has to go to Dragonstone, and that he's going to leave Sansa in his stead. And I think because of Jon's leave, it's going to result in Littlefinger trying to gain control of the situation through Sansa. He's going to keep whispering in her ear. Because I believe in the first episode, they're really going to try and prove that Sansa and Jon are very different leaders, and Sansa's going to strongly disagree with how Jon is ruling the North. But it does seem like Jon is not getting along with Littlefinger. When he's in the crypts of Winterfell, I believe just before he leaves, he is meted by Littlefinger, and he grabs him and throws him against the wall. What I want to point out is that Lyanna Stark is in the background, almost foreshadowing Jon's heritage, but I don't believe Jon was looking at Lyanna. I believe that Jon was looking at his real father, Ned Stark. Ned may not have been Jon's biological father, but Ned was Jon's true father, the guy who raised Jon, the man that Jon looks up to more than anyone. And there was something that Littlefinger did or said that pissed off Jon. And he could be mad at Littlefinger for many reasons. First of all, Littlefinger betrayed Ned Stark, but I don't believe that that information will ever get out. It could be that Jon is aware that Littlefinger disapproves of him as King of the North, and that he's whispering in Sansa's ear against him. And Jon wants nothing more than to stay close to his sister. And he could believe that Littlefinger is trying to tear them apart. He also could have said something insulting. He could have told a story that was disrespectful to Ned, or could have told him that he doesn't deserve to be king in the North because he's a bastard born in the South. But what is interesting about Littlefinger is that he does seem to know something more than the typical story of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark.
How many tens of thousands had to die because Rhaegar chose your aunt?
Yes, he chose her. And then he kidnapped her and raped her.
Nobody knows Jon Snow's parentage yet except for Bran and potentially Littlefinger. And Littlefinger may just know from common sense, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on Jon's bad side. And I keep wondering whether there's significance under those crypts, if there's maybe a secret hidden in Lyanna's tomb proving Jon Snow's heritage. But after all that, he goes to Dragonstone and then eventually the Wall. And it looks like this is going to be the huge action climax of the season. And that makes this episode 6 because there's only 7 episodes in the season. We get to see the gate at the Wall, and I want to point out that it doesn't look like the gate at Castle Black. The gate at Castle Black looks very different. This makes me think that it's another castle, possibly Eastwatch by the Sea. And that makes the most sense because it is a straight sail north from Dragonstone. But then we get a group of everybody running from something, and they're running to a big circular frozen lake. And everyone in this group we know. We're going to see the Hound, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros Emir, Tormund, Gendry, Jon, and Jorah, running from what looks like the White Walkers. And then they huddle up in a group, and there's actually 12 of them, so we may learn more characters. Some could be wildlings, Stark men, or from the Brotherhood Without Banners. And it looks like they're standing in the center of that lake fending off something. I believe that it is going to be an overwhelming amount of whites. But there is one more shot, and it seems very out of place. But I'm convinced that it matches up with this set piece. It looks like a group of men, and they're running underground with a bunch of torches. And there's a big river running under them, and it looks like they're running from something. I believe that that is Jon Snow in the center and Jorah is standing behind them, and it is the group of men that is running and trying to take shelter from the Whites and the White Walkers in the caves. They could also be seeking shelter from a resurrected, dead dragon. So this set piece looks like it could be a lot more than just a fight in the snow. It could be survival for our favorite characters, and they're trying to run from the threat that they cannot fight. But then we see a lot of other shots hinting at what our favorite characters are up to. First of all is Arya, and we see her progressively going more north. And in that journey, a lot could happen. She could have another conflict with the Freys, she could meet with the Brotherhood Without Banners, which would reunite her with Thoros, Beric Dondarrion, and the Hound. Or she could meet up with Nymeria, her lost direwolf from Game of Thrones Season 1. And then there's Theon's journey. We see Yara, Theon, and the Sand Snakes, which appear to be on a ship. They seem to be on a mission to attack something, but then we see that ship under fire. And we see Theon in panic among the flames, and he's almost looking as he's watching Yara and Ellaria and the other Sand Snakes get captured. And then he gets grabbed and thrown into the water. But then that takes us to our last character who we haven't seen in a while, and that is Jorah. And his hand looks disgusting. And it's hard to tell where he is based on the setting, but I'm going to wager a guess and say that he's in Old Town to try and cure his grayscale. And the reason why his arm is being put out of that hole is that I think they're trying to contain him until they find a cure. But that is it on the episode breakdown. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I've been saying. If you want to know about the confirmed plot leaks that I have been talking about in this video, please check out my episode breakdown of Game of Thrones Season 7. But until then, I'll see you guys later.